Like many parents of young children, Julia Najra and Sean Starr are trying to figure out how to work from home while caring for their 4-year-old son. He was in daycare, but he was kicked out because Sean Starr is a nurse.
Well, once they found out that I'd be taking care of COVID positive patients at the hospital, as most nurses are right now, um, they asked us to keep our son home the entire month of April.
This isn't how it's supposed to work. San Diego County, in its stay at home order, allows for daycares to only stay open to care for children of essential workers, no one else. In this case, the opposite happened. Star's son couldn't go, but the daycare was still open for non essential workers, according to the couple. Star didn't want to provide the name of their daycare.
The only reason they were allowed to stay open was to provide care for essential workers. And yet they were discriminating against probably one of the only essential workers that were still using their services, but staying open for all the other kids. So they were doing the exact opposite of what they were supposed to be doing.
We're actually required to only accept our children from essential worker and families.
Holly Weber owns and runs Magic Hours Preschool in Mira Mesa, and she is following the county rules. Children of non essential workers are no longer allowed at her daycare, though she says no one is checking up on her.
They're not requiring that we regulate that or verify it in any way. We just happen to know our families and what they do for a living.
Weber says it's very difficult to stay open right now, but it's important to her.
It's what we do. We are a family that takes care of families. And we take care of those children because their parents need us to help them with that. It would be much more difficult to close the doors and discontinue the only option that parents may have.
The dilemma is obvious. Essential workers like doctors, nurses, police officers, and grocery store clerks need someone to care for their young kids. But that means the daycares that serve these families could be hotbeds for spreading the coronavirus.
It's very hard to control young children and keep them socially spaced apart, for sure. It's impractical for most very young children to be wearing masks the way the rest of us are. It's very hard to teach them and get them to wash their hands. All of the things that could be done to minimize infection are just extra challenging.
He says the large majority of children aren't getting sick from COVID 19, but they can still spread the disease.
Some people have no symptoms at a time when they're contagious for this infection, and children maybe do that even more than adults do. So you can have the best of intentions and not planning not to send your child to the daycare when they're sick, but by the time they're sick, it may be too late. They've already been contagious at the daycare 1 or 2 or 3 days before they got sick. And then, of course, all the other children at that daycare have the potential to get sick, and then they go home, and then it's a cascade from family member to family member.
Ideally, Dr. Sawyer says each family of an essential worker would have individual childcare at home, but he knows that's not an option. Claire Tregesser, KPBS News.